Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Rory Reid from RoryReidArt.com, back again with another YouTube video. Today we're going over one of the second pieces that I've done in this still life stint that we are on. Starting off here, we did our crappy little sketch, which we often begin with. Reason I do this sketch is mainly just for composition purposes, to plot out where I want things. It's not necessarily for any sort of detail work. It's just a placeholder so that I know where everything goes, and to maintain that throughout the piece. Any details that I'm going to do and fill in is done with the paint when I'm actually going in and working. Starting off now, we're going to use our patented turquoise blue-green color that we always use in most of our pieces, using a palette knife to lay that down into the background. For this particular series, I did use this palette knife to begin the paintings more often than not, because I find it's easier to get the paint slapped on the canvas, if that makes sense. When I use the brush, I have to go layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. With the palette knife, I can just lay on a thick, smooth, glob of paint in one go. And then that gets me, it sort of like saves time. It gets me ahead of the curve as far as being able to paint on top of another paint layer, if that makes sense. When I use the brush and I fill in the background, with a million brush strokes, then I got to go over it again with a million brush strokes, then I got to go over it one more time, and then from that point on, I'm usually in a good place where the colors that I have on the palette can show up accurately, because I'm painting on top of existing paint layers as opposed to just the white canvas, if that makes sense. So using the palette knife to begin the painting, where I just layer on a thick layer of paint evenly over the canvas, that speeds that process up. So that's something I might look into doing for future pieces. It worked well when I tested it out here, so I'll be experimenting with that in the future. Drawbacks though is that I don't really like the textured look that you get from it, but adding some brushwork on top of it seems to mask it just enough. So filling in our cup, or our little saucer there, and the vase with some alizarin crimson with different varying values. I used some of my dioxazine purple to darken it down, and just added in the proper values where necessary. Did the same thing with the cup on the right. I guess it's a little bowl, you can call it. A little saucer is what we used to say back in JA. And also getting in some groundwork done on the flower bouquet itself. I'm using the exact turquoise green color for the foliage that you see there in the bouquet. It's just a darkened version of the background color itself. I think I added a touch of blue in the background color also, and lightened it up with white, but it's pretty similar. And we're keeping like a sort of pinkish orangish color in the center flower there. As far as the base or the foreground goes, I am using the same background color, and I just added purple for the darker, or the areas that are more in shadow. Adding a few abstractions, as you can see, to just add a bit of value changes, which is a little bit more appealing to the eye, gives a more interesting look than just a flat color. Dropping in our prelim placeholders for the shadows as well. We'll correct those as time goes by, and as with the previous piece, we were just gonna mainly focus on painting the vases and the bowl or the cup, and those are going to be our focal points. The secondary focal point will of course be the flowers in the bouquet, but as I said, I was mainly using these pieces as a precursor to the series that I'm going to be doing. And so in the series I'm going to be doing the vases, or the whatever I'm using to hold the flowers. In this case it's a vase. I have a couple different ideas that I'm going to implement in the future in the series, but in this particular case I wanted the vase to be detailed out so that I could gauge how it would work in my final projects that I'm going to be undertaking. Same as before, we're going to keep the brushwork loose on the flowers because I think it's more interesting to look at as opposed to fully detailing them out or fully rendering them out. Adding different branches now here with a liner brush and getting some of the smaller highlights put in place on sort of an initial level. And this color combo I'm really liking, man. The purples, the greens, the reds, and the pink is, works well together. It's beautiful to look at just if you're paying attention solely to the color palette. A little bit of white in there as well bounces or works well. And I did plan on refining the center flower a bit more, and we'll see that coming up in the future. So what I'm doing now is just working some of the values, adding a little more richness to the highlighted side of the vase there, just to give it a bit more punch, since the rest of the painting was somewhat in a cooler tone. The bright red bounces right off those more subdued colors and gives it a great little punch. Really draws you in. And that's an old technique as well, same trick where everything else is sort of somewhat monotone or somewhat monochromatic, and then you use your color to draw attention to your focal point. So it's in that vein, not exact of course, but works well. Dropping a hint of red now in that shadow area. Gonna go back over with the purple color though, to get so that it's not too pronounced, but you would get some reflection of the color in the surface that the vase is standing on, so that's why I dropped that in there. But as I said, we're gonna go over it and reduce the saturation of it a bit as we go along. Using a pointer brush now or a round brush I should say, to get some of the finer details in. We wanted to sharpen up the vase a little bit more and do a little bit more work on the flowers. As I said, we are going to keep the majority of it super loose, but having a range, as if you watch the channel, you hear me say this many times, having a range of concepts intertwined together is my particular style. So if I'm working with a particular object, in this case a vase, I want portion of it, usually the portion in shadow, to be a bit more loose, whereas the portion that is in the light to be a bit more refined and detailed and rendered out. And that's the same thing with everything that I do. Sort of always work in a range, a value range. If I'm working on the edges of whatever object I'm painting, I do a range from blurred edges to sharp edges, all these kind of things. Some of the brushwork is loose to some very detailed, that's another range. always adds a layer of, you know, interest for the viewer, in my opinion. It's just what I like, you know. So we darken down the left side of the background a bit as well, just to indicate that our light source is coming from the right, as we usually do. I like this light composition mostly myself. Have done a few paintings with different you know, light sources, but this one seems more visually appealing to me, if I'm being honest, where the light is coming from the top right down, diagonally down I should say. Adding a few abstractions here and there now on the vase and the cup, and it's, you know, blended them in somewhat to the background. Personally love this style and love this look. You know, if you looked at any of my previous pieces, you know I do this all the time. Just one of those things you fall in love with when you paint. Going over the foliage now with some darker values, just to add a bit more depth. Even have some of the flowers covered over by the background to indicate that they're, you know, lost in the atmosphere a bit. And we're going to add now a little bit of a glare on this vase. Same without on the cup slash bowl here, whatever it is. Just to indicate that there's, you know, a little bit of sheen or shine on the surface as well. And we did refine the center flower a bit more, as you see, even though it's still very loose. Just added a bit of contrast in the value as well. Gave it a little bit more drama, you know. I think when it was lighter it looked good as well. So either or, I'm happy with both. But yeah, this color palette is one of my faves. Definitely going to be using it again. The purples and the greens works well against the reds. Red, of course, being a good complement to green. Using a liner brush now to refine some of the highlight areas there. And yeah, man, now we're coming up close to the end. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Definitely one of my favorites. And our very final touches in now. Adding little dots and little lines of highlighted color. The highlighted color is just the background color lightened up all the way, or almost all the way I should say, and you drop those in on your different objects in the piece to sort of harmonize all the colors. So I think this is where we ended up leaving it. This is the final piece. It's called Winter's Warmth by RoryReidArt. That would be me. This piece is available for sale. Store link below if you're interested in checking that out. And guys, follow my Teespring store. It's teespring.com/store/RoryReidArt. Logo tees and other goodies over there for you to check out. Also, follow me on all social media. Like and subscribe to this channel, RoryReidArt, on YouTube. I'm on at Tripler999 on Instagram. I stream all these paintings full length on Twitch at Tripler999. And I'm also on TikTok at Tripler999 as well. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a blessed day. Take it easy. Peace.